is. How's it going, everybody? Today, we're going to be talking about failed movie universes. They're going to be doing all of the things and stuff. And of course,
wait. Okay.
Jonathan, what are you doing here?
I'm back, and I thought I would jump in on this intro because I have to announce my grand return.
Of course, that's right, y'all. Well, welcome back to the First Ones to Die, all together again, family reunion edition. Even Gibson's excited to be here. Look at him. Well, he's gone now, but you know what? It's all right. We'll get some stuff from him too. So if you want to hear what all three of us back together again have to say, sit back, relax, grab a snack, grab a beverage, and tune on in to the First Ones to Die.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the First Ones to Die podcast. My name is Jonathan. It's been a minute since you've seen me, but I know you haven't forgotten about me because... So we are the First Ones to Die podcast, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Alex and Jerome. Alex, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. To respect that intro, though. Good respect. I'm doing good. Happy to have you back, and yeah, I'm good. How about you, Jerome? How you doing?
Doing good, chilling. I was drinking earlier, and I might get another one in the middle of this podcast.
Oh, you've been drinking?
Coke Zero Starlight. Coke Zero Starlight. It's a space Coca-Cola. It's only out for a limited edition too, so you know.
Jonathan, it's different between when I say I've been drinking to he's been drinking. His drinks are very different from my drinks.
Yeah, whatever you do, kids, don't mess with the police and just be like, yeah, I've been drinking this Mountain Dew. You will get arrested. I promise you. A cop will not find it amusing at all. You'll be outside of the car in the matter of seconds on the hood with handcuffs on.
I think a white kid will be fine. How about you, Jonathan? How have you been doing since you've been gone?
Good. You know, before we started recording, we talked about...
I'm going to go get another Coca-Cola Starlight. I'll be back. Hold on. I'll be back.
Before we started recording, we talked about, you know, some of the negative things that happened while in the last month to all of us. But some of the positive, I saw Pretty Woman, the musical, here at the Dolby Theater, and that was a lot of fun. The star of the show was what's his name? Oh, and he's from the... Anyway, while I looked this up, it was a very good show. Great cast, and amazing, talented people.
Was it exactly like it, or was there any changes in plot or anything?
It was
like
pretty
that?
much like the movie, but with music. And sorry, I'm trying to look up the name of the guy whose daughter this is because it's gonna bug me if I don't.
Brennan Hunt? Is that his name?
No. But anyway, well, I'll look it up later and tell you guys. But I saw that, and yesterday went to a hotel called the Godfrey in Hollywood for this book signing for this casting director, and that was fun. Shout out to We Audition because they're a great service for actors. And yeah, I'm excited to watch Nope next week. It's gonna get me through my week. I am so excited. It is my most anticipated movie of the year. So I'm just pumped to watch it.
I'm really hoping it's good. Like I'm genuinely worried if it will be good or not.
Why? It's Jordan Peele. He hasn't done anything bad yet.
I didn't really enjoy Us. I found it.
You're one of the few.
Fair enough.
I know there are a few people who didn't enjoy Us. I think because they were comparing it to Get Out.
That could have been
That's
it.
the
I
thing.
just
I
felt
don't
it.
think I don't think you should compare any of his, because I think Get Out was like clearly a passion project to his, but I don't think
Right.
anything he's going to make from this point forward is going to be or is intended to be that level of like detailed and kind of like,
It could just be that I'm
you know,
also a
elaborate.
very heavy avid watcher of like horror films, and you know, so like plot was really easy to figure out, and things weren't as scary, and
That's the thing.
it
I don't
just
consider like Us to be a horror movie as much as I consider that a thriller. Like Get Out is a horror movie and
yeah,
it
but
plays on those tensions very
they
well.
put it as a horror film.
They did market it that way. That's
So
true.
you
They did
can't
market
like
it that way.
he wanted it to be seen as a horror film, and I watched it as a horror film. I was like, okay, I can see it more as a suspense, not even a thriller, a suspense. And a lot of those moments, I will give it to them. They were just like very tense and everything, but it wasn't as good as I thought it was gonna be. And everybody was so pumped to see it, and I was pumped to see it because don't get me wrong, it was good. I still enjoyed it. I just don't think it was of the highest praise.
Yeah, I
By the
like
way,
Us. I don't love it more than Get Out, but I do like that movie a lot. And I think Nope is going to be the same as Us in that it's gonna like his he's said like, you know, Jordan Peele, some of his favorite movies are like those weird like abstract horror movies from like the 70s and 80s, stuff like Suspiria and Rosemary's Baby, you know, stuff like that. So and that's what he wants to be making. So I'm and Us was kind of in that vein for me as far as story wise, because the second you start picking the thread of like how like logistically Us works, it doesn't make sense. But you just accept it for what it is and you can just have fun with it. So I feel like Nope is going to be the same way. It's just going to be a movie you can just watch, and if you just accept it and just have fun with it, it'll just be like a pretty fun like thriller movie.
I'm excited. I've only watched the first trailer, which was like a minute long.
Good. Don't watch the second one. The second one I watched the second one and it spoils the plot. And I was like, man, I wish I had gone to the movie not knowing any of this information. It was better when it was just speculation. But the second trailer tells you pretty much what they're doing and what the movie's about.
I have ADHD, so I don't recall either trailers. I know there's something to do with horses, and why are black people trying to be ranchers?
They're not ranchers. They're well, I mean, they have a ranch technically, but it's for film. They have like stunt horse teams for film and stuff.
Also, side note, Olivia Valli, who is Frankie Valli's daughter, she's the star of Pretty Woman the Musical. And apparently the show I went to, Frankie Valli was in the audience.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But, all right, so going on topic, what was our topic again? Why are we here?
Today we're talking about
so on brand.
I think I got a lot more specific
podcast.
with the intro saying it's the 9 failed movie universes, but just in general, we're going to be talking about failed movie universes in general. For those who don't know what a movie universe is, think something like, you know, the MCU, where it's like a series of movies that involve different characters, but technically all take place in the same world or in the same timeline or same universe, that sort of thing. And somehow will come together in like one mega movie where we get to see all those characters from their own separate movies come together and be you know, in a movie together, kind of like how you had Captain America and Iron Man and Thor and the Hulk, and then you got the Avengers where everybody comes together and then it continues from there. The MCU right now, you know, which currently they're putting out way too much stuff. It's like between the Disney Plus shows and the movies and God knows what else. They got like cartoons on the way too. It's just a lot of stuff.
They need to calm down.
Yeah, they do. But you know, they're like the prime example of like how to do it successfully because they're still going strong right now. So I thought it'd be fun if we talked about the ones that didn't quite do it so successfully. And I have an article here from GameSpot that's entitled "The 9 Attempts to Set Up Cinematic Universes and Franchises (parentheses) that Failed Miserably." So we'll just run down the list and go through a few of them, maybe not all of them, and just talk about them and talk about our experiences with them. If we've possibly seen some movies in these universes, or if we would have been excited to see that, or how we could have made it better, how they could have made it better, maybe if we have some ideas, and see what comes out. We're going to have a very easy breezy conversational episode this week. So, in which
Easy, breezy,
Jonathan,
beautiful.
yeah, cover girl. The first one, Alex, you might be excited about. The first one on the list is the Freddy versus Jason horror universe. For those who don't know, Freddy and Jason for the longest time had a lot of crossover stuff. If you watch a lot of the old Jason and Freddy movies,
They actually only had one.
90s into the 2000s. No, there's two, because there's one, or I forget, is it Jason X or Jason Goes to Hell? One of the two, where his mask is left over, and then you see Freddy's hand pop out the dirt and grab it and pull it down with him, and you hear Freddy's laugh.
So it's Jason X. That was
okay. I thought that was Jason.
That
X.
was right before Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, that is. It says here.
No, I'm sorry. That's Freddy Goes to Hell. I'm sorry. Jason Goes to Hell, because Jason X was the one where they were actually in space. Yeah.
Gotcha.
There's a Jason movie where he goes to space.
Yeah.
I did not know this.
That's Jason X, right?
Yeah, that's Jason X. Jason
That's
X is when he's in space. Jason Goes to Hell.
Open this can.
Which, weirdly enough, I recently just started watching it. Why? I don't know. Sometimes I just find the old campy horror films, a nice little treat before bed. They had in Jason Goes to Hell, they had a whole setup, a sting to catch Jason. It was very dramatic.
Yeah, it was bad. It's so bad.
I mean, they literally just shot him a bunch and then threw a grenade on him. And finally, that was enough to blow him to bits, and then he was dead.
How about when they had the dominatrix robot woman fight Jason?
That was Jason X. They had him in different simulation rooms. To see what. Yeah, that was. They got. I don't know. My favorite is, and I cannot remember now which one it was, where Jason goes to Manhattan or Brooklyn or something. Or
Jason Takes Manhattan or something like that, or Goes to Manhattan.
I don't even know if that's the actual title or anything, but he was in Manhattan and he removes his mask, scares a bunch of youth, and put it back on, and then walks away like nothing happened.
I remember there's a scene in that movie where one of the dudes is a boxer, and he's like, "Yeah, let's go," and he starts punching Jason, and it's doing nothing, and Jason just one punch knocks his head clean off. And I was like, yeah, that's how that would go. That seems right.
Weird with the films. They got weird.
Jonathan, did you ever watch Freddy versus Jason?
All I know is that Kelly Rowland is in it.
She is in Jason. Yeah, Jason versus Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, and she dies terribly. It was sad.
She actually almost beats Freddy. She goes up against him, and she pretty much calls him a tiny dick with scissor hands.
Yeah, she taunts him, and then Jason just kills her.
Comes up behind her. Yeah, Kelly Rowland almost had it. She almost defeated Freddy. And then Jason came out of nowhere and just beheaded.
You could say she had a major dilemma.
Oh my God.
You know what? Fair enough. I'll give you that one.
Now, the funny thing, too, about that universe is they were also going to, if you watch Freddy vs. Jason, there's an after credit scene where Bruce Campbell playing Ash from Ash, I was going to say Ash versus Evil Dead, but at that point, that show wasn't out yet. So it was just The Evil Dead, was in a post-credit scene, and it was supposed to lead up to Ash fighting Freddy and Jason. But Bruce Campbell was not into the idea. It says here, Campbell rejected the idea, stating that it was creatively bankrupt and expressing reluctance to get involved financially with producers who own the other characters. So he was not about it. But it did get turned into 2 comic books. One is from Dark Horse, Freddy versus Jason versus Ash in 2007, and then Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, The Nightmare Warriors in 2009.
See, I would have watched that. If you want
more Freddy versus Jason.
See, I would have, if they had involved Ash, I would have totally watched that.
Me too, because it would have been a lot more fun. But I
What's
get
the
what he
next
means.
one?
The next one's technically the DC extended universe. I'm gonna skip over that for right now
Fair
because
enough.
we've talked enough about superhero stuff. Let's talk about some other stuff that's more creative. The next one after that is the Robin Hood universe.
Superhero fans, y'all hear that? Jerome said superhero stuff is not creative.
Oh,
Drag him.
and it's the DC one. Weren't you just working with their initiative program?
Slander.
Oof. Oh.
It's more
Warner
like
Brothers, I have no
like
resentment
DCs have
towards DC. Warner
yeah,
Brothers
whatever.
is
Okay,
wonderful.
That's true. Jonathan has always defended Warner Brothers when we've talked smack, so you know. We
This
see
is
where the
true.
alliance lasts.
Yeah, Warner Bros. And Kiki Palmer. Those are the two people that are in his pocket that he has in their pocket.
They pay him to say nice stuff.
They pay him very well, yes. Especially Kiki. She makes sure he gets a piece of the proceeds for everything she does. That's why he wants to see Nope so bad. He's been paid to promote it.
Also, Nope just looks dope. Nope looks dope. No, fine.
Nope.
Anyway. I was proud of that statement.
No, I'm just saying,
I was proud of my little frame.
We talk about superheroes a lot on this
yes.
podcast.
Yeah,
so
we do. No,
it's nice to get a break from it every now and again. But no, I do love my DC people. Thank you, DC. You're awesome. DC Comics is the shit. Robin Hood universe. So this is, even though the picture is Robin Hood men in tights on this article, they're actually referring to, if you guys remember, in 2014,
the Jamie Foxx Robin Hood.
Yeah, well, 2018 is when that movie came out, but 2014 is when they announced it, and the Jamie Foxx, Taron Egerton one was going to be the first of the movies for the Robin Hood universe films. Says according to this, in 2014, The Hollywood Reporter revealed that Sony was in talks to spend a whopping $1 million to buy the rights to a pitch made by writers Corey Goodman and Jeremy Lott for a movie titled Hood that would lead to an extended Robin Hood universe. As The Hollywood Reporter stated, the plan is to make a series of movies focusing on the outlaw Archer and his band of merry men, including Little John, Friar Tuck, and Will Scarlet, just to name a few. One could say they were the superhero team of England's Middle Ages. It never happened, and the huge flop of 2018's Robin Hood movie suggests that was the right decision.
Okay, my first issue is that the movie is called Hood, and the main character is black. Like, why?
Wait, what? No, they're not. Did you watch that Robin Hood movie?
No. What I just
you
Jamie
only
Foxx
mentioned Jamie Foxx.
Taron Egerton. He plays Robin Hood. Taron Egerton.
Well, still,
it's streaming on HBO Max. If anybody wants to try to watch it, I just found it now. But.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx plays Little John technically.
Yeah, Little
okay.
John.
Well,
yeah.
Well, the fact that one of the main characters is black and it's still got the Hood title attached to it, I'm side-eyeing.
Yeah, it was later changed to Robin Hood, and that was a good decision.
I don't know. It still was not a good movie, so good decision. Or the title, I don't think would have had that much effect.
You know what it was? The movie was trying too hard. It was clear that Robin Hood, like, they didn't know how to make a Robin Hood movie and try not to make it like a war movie. Because like people are literally, there was one point where literally someone has a Gatling arrow shooter. Like they're shooting Gatling arrows at people like a machine gun. And it's like, what? That's not how arrows work. You need to knock it and fire. You can't just crank a Gatling gun of arrows. But it was very clear that they wanted to have guns, but they wanted the movie to still take place in the Middle Ages, so they can't have guns. So they like tried to turn the bow and arrows into guns to the point where there's a scene where Robin Hood's at war and everybody has their arrows knocked like this and they're checking their corners like they have like assault rifles. And I'm like, no archer would operate that way because the tension in the bow to have the arrow knocked would hurt. Like your arms would get tired. You need those to shoot arrows.
Not only that, if you're moving swiftly like that, the arrow is going to move too. Suddenly you're like shooting this way, the arrow is pointed that way.
Yeah, it was clearly, it was trying too hard to be like modern, but not in the modern setting. And on top of that, everyone was like okay at best as far as acting wise. The only person who looked like he was doing a good job and having fun, well, actually two people, was Taron Egerton and Jamie Foxx, but only because they were acting together. Like in their scenes together, they look like they're having a blast. Scenes when they're not together, they're just like, they look like they're going through the motions and just saying the lines they need to say so they can get the movie done. And it's like, it's one of those things where I was like, man, we could have had a really good Robin Hood movie. But even more than that, like the starting movie aside, how interesting is a Friar Tuck movie? Like,
Probably
you know
more
what I mean?
interesting to you than it is to us, it feels like.
It's not interesting to me at all. That sounds boring. Will Scarlet too. Like in that movie, they set Will Scarlet as like a douche. Like, I don't want to see a movie with that character. Like where he's the main character.
I don't know. With Robin Hood, anytime I think about Robin Hood now, I think about the animated cartoon one with the fox.
Oh, with the fox?
Yeah, which I still haven't seen, and everybody gets on my case about not seeing. And now it's one of those things I refuse to see, even though I think I'm going to really enjoy it. It looks cute, and I kind of want to see it, but I refuse to see it out of pettiness now.
Okay.
Like, I got a lot of issues and hangups. We all know this. But I don't. When it comes to like Robin Hood, the Merry Band of Men, how like trying to modernize it, but not keep it modern, trying to keep it where arrows are the more efficient thing, is such a difficult thing to do. And to try to build a whole universe around that, was their goal to just have basically a war movie with, you know, medieval style? Because I feel like in the end, that's a lot of what I recall. I think I watched a little bit of it. I recall that's, I think, what they were kind of pushing towards. And then in the end, it's just a medieval war. Kind of makes me feel like, you know, the Hobbit and the five armies, Battle of the Five Armies.
That's a good point, because also, what was the end goal? You know what I mean? Like the way a universe can succeed, movie universe can succeed, is if it feels like you're building towards something. It's why a lot of people aren't feeling Marvel Phase 4 right now the way they did phases 1, 2, and 3, because it feels like we're not building towards anything. We're just putting out content, and it doesn't seem like there's an end goal. There's no reason for me to have to watch all these shows, all these movies, because I don't know what all of it's leading to, and there's no crossover, so it doesn't feel like anything's connected anymore as much as it used to be. Like, you could skip Moon Knight and you won't miss anything. You could skip Miss Marvel and you won't miss anything.
Well, it's
is how it feels right now.
It feels like with that type of universe too. Yeah, you're coming up to a big reveal and everything like that. But you always have a hint and a note, like, oh, we know shit's going down, things are getting worse. We need people to help us. I mean, medieval times, it took so long for people to get one place to another. Like, I may need you over here, but I'll see you in like 2 months.
Yeah, I don't know. I like, Jonathan, could you see a Robin Hood universe like succeeding in any way?
This is the first time in I don't know how many years that I've ever had a discussion about Robin. Actually, this might be the first time in my life I've ever had a discussion about Robin Hood. So I don't think anybody would necessarily be chomping at the bit for a Robin Hood series or universe or whatever. So if it doesn't happen, then I don't think it's a loss to anybody, really. And I'm sorry if you're the family descendants of the author of Robin Hood, then I'm sorry that you have to listen to this and hear me say those words, but I don't think anybody's missing a Robin Hood universe.
Let me ask you this. If Robin Hood was played by Keke Palmer, would you then go and see it and support it nonstop?
Well, I'd probably watch, but I'd be like, girl, what are you doing? Actually, no, I probably wouldn't watch. I didn't watch her movie that was released this year. Her other, Alice. Even though the concept looks really cool.
Yeah.
I have not heard of it.
It's where like apparently, or go ahead, Jonathan.
I think it's like she is conditioned or led to believe that she's a slave living like
Oh,
in the 17 or 1800s or something, but she's actually in the like 1970s.
It's Black the Village, kind of.
wait, wasn't like Antebellum?
You're thinking of Antebellum. That's
Oh,
different. They get
Antebellum.
transported to.
No, they don't.
Oh, that's right. They don't. I forgot about
They're
that.
taken. So
That
they
was
believe
cool.
they're transported, but they're just in some background of an amusement park.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
make
yeah.
an inappropriate joke, but we're gonna move on from this topic.
It's a small world. Is that what
uh,
you were gonna say?
No, just something. I like my livelihood. I'm gonna keep my livelihood.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Those first thoughts, people don't always need to come out. So it's okay. What's the next one on the list?
Next is the Power Rangers universe. So for those who don't know, Power Rangers had a 2017 reboot film. So we're not talking about the classic Power Rangers like you know them. We're talking about
the one with
new...
Becky G.
Yeah, the one with Becky G and Elizabeth Banks and all the like when they were trying to make it dark and edgy and cool, and Krispy Kreme saves the day. Literally, that's a plot point. Krispy Kreme saves the day in the Power Rangers movie.
Side note, have you seen that TikTok? Have you ever had a Krispy Kreme? Was it crispy?
No. I've seen those because they're like when you're trying to make small talk with people you really don't like. Have you ever had Krispy Kreme? Was it crispy?
Was it crispy? Yep.
Mm-hmm. I love that TikTok. Usually
Yeah,
followed by like meeting people you don't want to meet.
Apparently, this one's not so much a movie universe as much as this was a franchise that the writer John Feltheimer wanted to do more of.
Feltheimer.
It was expected to be a 6-film story arc, but the movie just did not do
that.
Well.
Is very ambitious. 6 films.
Very.
Did they want to highlight each of the Power Rangers in one of the films or something?
I think it was more they may have wanted to do every villain, like they only got to do Divatox, I think, and that's it in the first movie.
You know what I learned, and I didn't ever think about this as a kid, with the original Power Rangers coming back out in the 80s and 90s, only the Pink Ranger has a skirt. That was because in the original Power Rangers, the one that was done in Japan, the Yellow Ranger is a male, but in the US, the Yellow Ranger is a female, but they use the stock footage from Japan's, and just dubbed over when they're in their costume. So that's why the Pink Ranger is the only one in a skirt, and they didn't put the yellow one in a skirt. That was it. It was just because they decided to change the gender of one of them, and it was just like, oh, well, and then nobody ever thought about why the Pink Ranger was the only one wearing a skirt ever.
I think you were the first and only person I've ever heard actually talk about that.
Well, I saw a TikTok with like 600,000 likes, so apparently I'm not the only one.
Yeah, actually, fun fact. Also, Stan Lee was one of the first people who wanted to bring Power Rangers to the States for Marvel, like for a TV show. But Marvel wasn't going for it, so they said no.
I think at that point, that's why Marvel just started letting people, when they're like, we want to do this. All right, do it. Clearly, y'all got something.
Like, we're not going to turn down an idea just in case it blows up into this huge.
I mean, you never know. Like, I mean, no one had faith in Guardians of the Galaxy before that came out, and we see how that worked out. So, anything's possible.
I could understand why they wanted to make Power Rangers more. I could see how it could be more. But at the time, it also just, I don't know. I didn't end up watching it until a couple years later, even. And then I was like, oh, this was really good. I actually enjoyed this. I wasn't anticipating it.
I think it is. The problem is that they were trying, I think what it was is that the regular Power Rangers was still running. And it's one of those things where people were like, I like my Power Rangers the way they are. Why are you rebooting Power Rangers? And on top of that, rebooting them with like all CG, you know what I mean? Like it's half of the fun of Power Rangers that it is people in suits, like doing the actual moves and stuff. There's like a campiness and that is fun and a part of the Power Rangers brand that you completely removed in an effort to try and make it darker and edgier and look more like I guess.
I think there's also
know?
something to be said about watching Power Rangers fight monsters dub style, where the actions and the noises don't fit up just correct. They don't fit up. There's something nice about it where things don't fit up right, and it's just like, yeah, this is the Power Rangers I know and love. Before
Yeah,
they
it's
started
kind of the
getting
same thing as I'm thinking about Powerpuff Girls. Like when they were like, yeah, we're doing this Powerpuff Girls TV show, and everybody was like, we already have Powerpuff Girls, both the reboot cartoon and the original. We do not need a live action Powerpuff Girls. They're in their 20s.
Which I recently thought about that, and I looked up to see what had happened to it.
the
It's
studios
apparently
bullied from social media.
yeah, but they
Because the
never
script
announced
got
that it was
leaked.
they never announced that it was canceled. They just said we're retooling and rewriting the script and we're reworking some things, but they went quiet after that. They never came back and said, "Hey, it's canceled," or "Hey, this is when we're going to start shooting again." They just left quietly.
They're like,
I mean, when you
will
get
notice.
embarrassed like that, Jonathan, the only resort is to just leave. You know what I mean? Like when you trip on the prom night dance floor and accidentally get pantsed by the football team, you don't then just be like, all right, I'm just gonna pull my pants up and continue dancing. You leave and then tell your parents that we are moving tonight. We are not I'm not going back to that school ever again.
I don't know. I've embarrassed myself plenty of times. Sometimes that's all you can do. I mean, I was just saying how earlier, right before coming on here, I was just trying to water my tomato plant, and I fell on it on my balcony in front of everybody on the street.
Did you
and
squish
ended
the
up guessing.
tomato?
The leaves don't look happy. The tomatoes look fine. The leaves don't look really happy right now. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for them. But sometimes you fall almost face first into a tomato. I have potatoes growing too. Anyway, but I could see why the Power Rangers thing didn't take off, because also when rebooting when they tried to do this franchise, they tried to play on the very old one, and at the time, it was millennials that you had to play on that, but it wasn't like, oh, these are all like Gen Z kids in the film. We don't connect with them. They had all their lingo and shit, so it's like you're going for the wrong demographic.
Which
You're
I
using
completely
the wrong
forgot that
source.
movie existed.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people
Even
have.
though
Because
I
it didn't
feel
have
like
staying
people
power.
well, I feel like people were giving it good reviews though. Because it did get good reviews. I remember
It
people
got
were like, "Wow,
moderately
this is
okay reviews. Yeah, like I don't think anybody hated it. I think at worst it was people just being like, it's okay. And then you got some people who like genuinely liked it, who thought it was like pretty good. I think it just didn't make the money they were hoping it would make to justify making more.
I mean,
So-
I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna go rewatch it or anything like that, but I watched it with my sister. I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. Elizabeth Banks, she's a fantastic actress as well. So I always enjoy seeing anything with her. I think she deserves more roles, honestly. She's so funny.
Yeah, I'm 50-50 with Elizabeth Banks, because on one hand, I think she's very talented and a great actress. The Charlie's Angels thing still bothers me though.
Move on.
Where that bugged me. Anyway, next one. This one is I'm curious to see what you have to say about this. This one is the Men in Black / 21 Jump Street universe. And I remember this.
/ 21 Jump Street.
So
There's supposed to be a
Phil
crossover?
Lord and Chris Miller, who wrote 21 Jump Street, played around with the idea of combining Men in Black with 21 Jump Street and making like a crossover movie, and by extension tying the two universes together to be one. They apparently, it says here, Sony signed a deal for Lord Miller to develop a screenplay with screenwriter Rodney Rothman, but the project never went any further than the script stage, with Men in Black co-producer Walter Parks later explaining that ultimately the two franchises were not very compatible, which it's like,
duh.
Yeah, of course it is. And one's about aliens and like government secrets kind of, and the other one's clearly two old cops trying to go undercover in college and high school to discover drugs. And it's like a very like screwball comedy compared to Men in Black, which is a lot more of like a lighthearted comedy.
Men in Black International kind of became a screwball comedy a little bit. They were trying to make it that way. Just because they had Chris Hemsworth be who he was in that movie, I could kind of see it mingling. I mean, the whole point of Men in Black is that aliens walk among us without us knowing. They're incorporated into our universe. Men in Black has worked to put them into our universe without us knowing. So, like, it's as not as difficult, I feel like, as people would think it would be. Feel like you could blend the universes.
I feel like this is just Sony grasping at straws to like put together two movie franchises they had that were successful at the time together, even though they technically don't work together.
Like what they did, like a less successful version of the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour.
Yes.
Because at first glance, those shows are completely different. They have a completely different animation style, but it worked.
Yeah, and one's
It
all
did.
about
It
magic, and
surprisingly
one's
worked.
all about science. One's all about aliens, and one's all about, ridiculous cops. Both, I believe, are among us in this world. So, like, I'm just saying.
I don't know. I feel like Men in Black just is it's tonally too different. At least Men in Black as we had it at that time. At that time, the most recent one I think was Men in Black 3. So it was still very much like normal Men in Black as we know it, versus 21 Jump Street was like completely different. Even just movie style, editing wise, 21 Jump Street is completely different than Men in Black, which is just a normal movie with like a few visual effects. Whereas 21 Jump Street, the way it's edited, it's cut together really fast. There's like, intercut like little like jokes that are just visually on the screen, like when they had that scene in the first one where they get high and it's running through the 5 stages of like the being on the drug that was in there. Like that's something that would never be in Men in Black. So that's why it's like it's weird that they're trying to combine the two together.
I don't know. I still think there's a way they could have worked it out. Jonathan brought up a good point. Jimmy Neutron and Timmy Turner.
That's only one, and that crossover had no right being as good as it was.
It hit so many points. It was one of the best crossovers I think I ever saw. Because they tried to do that with like Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
Oh, now that was a good crossover. That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana. That was a good crossover.
Yeah, but
that was the event.
No, I still gotta give.
I don't know. I'm with Alex on that one. I don't think that one was as good as the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. Like,
and then they had it. Hannah Montana, Wizards of Waverly Place, and Sweet Life on Deck. I think
now that I don't, it's not as iconic.
Which I don't know why they never just did, or was it around the same time? I think it had just barely ended. They were able to have like a Hannah Montana and That's So Raven on top for like a second, but they didn't have a That's So Raven and Wizards of Waverly Place.
I think That's So Raven ended right when I think That's So Raven ended when Wizards of Waverly Place started.
They probably
they were just like they were like ships passing in the night.
Now, what would have been cool, because I think these two shows were on the same time, was That's So Raven and Phil of the Future.
That is
Phil of the Future is an underrated Disney Channel show.
Phil of the Future should have cross referenced a lot of shows, or just jumped in at the end of a few. I feel like it actually did in Lizzie McGuire. No, there was only 2 seasons of Lizzie McGuire.
I know, it's crazy, and they were in middle school.
Weird to think of how, because considering how popular that show is, weird to think that it only had 2 seasons.
Well, because Disney had a rule at the time that you could not pass 65 episodes. So all of the shows up until that point only had 65 episodes. That's So Raven was the first one to hit 100 episodes, and break the rule.
Interesting. Okay.
That's actually kind of smart and not all at the same time. Because it's like smart, because then shows don't get stale and you can move on. Because they should have done that with a few others, and then not, because then you had like something like Lizzie McGuire that everybody loved, and you just cut it.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have seen Drake and Josh meets Keenan and Kel crossover. And then I know it's 2 different eras, and so it wouldn't have really crossed over that well. because one's in the 90s and one's in the 2000s. But it would have been cool if they had like somehow did it and did like a crossover. That would have been
because they were both. Drake and Josh was kind of just like the white Keenan and Kel, but they were still both iconic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, no, I
technically we
agree.
kind of got because I like to imagine that iCarly takes place in the same universe as Drake and Josh, mostly because Miranda Cosgrove's in both, but also because it feels like Miranda Cosgrove or Carly is like an alternate universe version of Megan. Like, what if Megan had a different brother and lived in Seattle as opposed to was it San Francisco and Drake and Josh?
Whole,
I think it's San Diego.
Oh, okay.
There's that whole joke that Crazy Steve from Drake and Josh stole Megan and then brainwashed her in Seattle to become Carly and believe that's her brother. That's why you never see any of the other family members except for the dad in like a singular episode. Or they never talked about her mom. Well, I said the Spencer. That's why you never see the parents. You see the dad.
You used to have family members, so that's why I was like,
other family members. You don't ever see an aunt, a cousin.
Oh, okay.
The mom, grandparents, anything like that.
True. Yeah.
And also that one episode with the dad, he was just a normal guy. Why the hell did he let his like son that he barely believed was responsible enough raise his daughter?
No, he was in the military, submarine, right? Yeah.
Well, apparently he was not anymore. He was in some like little town called Okinawa or something like that. And
I thought he lived in Spokane, right?
No, he lived somewhere further. I actually think it was Okinawa.
Do you mean Okinawa?
Maybe it was Okinawa.
That's an actual like city.
There's a chance it is Okinawa. I feel like it was some weird ass little town or someplace you didn't know. But that's what I'm saying. Like there was that episode where he tried to move her away and take her away. It's so clearly he had the means to have his. We're off topic. This is nothing to do with what we're talking about. What's the next failed universe?
We were talking. We were on top.
We're talking about universes, just TV universes, not movie universes. But they were still in there.
Those were successful ones.
True, that's true. That's true. Those were successes. So the next one, the Amazing Spider-Man universe, which a lot of people are pitching to have it back now that Andrew Garfield was in Spider-Man No Way Home. There's petitions to have more Amazing Spider-Man movies. But before Spider-Man No Way Home, when they were doing Amazing Spider-Man, there was plans for after the second one for them to do a crap ton of movies. They were going to do more Amazing Spider-Mans, which is Andrew Garfield proper. Then they were also going to do a Sinister Six film, which the Sinister Six is like the prime Spider-Man supervillain team that like fight Spider-Man. So it's going to be Doc Ock, probably Lizard, Green Goblin, Rhino, all that stuff. And then Black Cat was going to get her own movie, which is another Spider-Man villain. So they're going to do a whole bunch of these movies that we're all going to tie into Spider-Man. And Amazing Spider-Man 2 did so poorly reception-wise. I think it made money. I'm pretty sure. Let me see. It says, and it started like the Amazing Spider-Man was well received and made $758 million worldwide. The sequel made $700 million. But it was the lowest grossing Spider-Man movie. And the reviews were not good. So they cut their losses. This is one I would actually like to see. I am curious to see what they were going to do. I actually didn't hate the Amazing Spider-Man movies as much as a lot of other people did.
I enjoyed them.
I was curious to see where they were going to go.
I didn't know people hated them.
It's more like people didn't like the first one. People didn't like because they felt like it was trying too hard to be too dark for a Spider-Man movie, especially with his suit being like so like edgy and kind of like more like it's a darker red, it's a darker blue. There's these scenes there he's in the dark and he's kind of got this sinister looking mask and stuff. So then in the second movie they gave him like the normal Spider-Man costume. But
is that all it takes to be dark for people?
No, it's how they were editing the movie and all that stuff. But I'm just giving like the visual stuff I can think of off the top of my head. But the second one was a lot better, like, you know, visually it was brighter, it was more fun, it was definitely like, you know, Spider-Man for real. But the issue people have with the second one is that a lot of the plot points didn't make sense. Like the fact that Jamie Foxx becomes Electro when he falls in a tank of electric eels, and then he gets electric powers for no reason. And then he's just Electro now.
Oh, so
Or-
the magical spider biting him, that's okay. But electric
No, it's
eels
not
and
magical.
powers,
It's radioactive, Alex. It has it's like, get it right, okay?
Maybe those
All right?
eels had swallowed some radioactive sludge or something.
There we go. They were swimming in radioactive goo.
Or another plot point people point to is the freaking Green Goblin thing, where Harry Osborn in that movie has goblin disease, and he wants to have Spider-Man's blood to test it to see if it'll like heal him. And Peter, Spider-Man, is like, no, I can't give you my blood, it's too dangerous. And everyone pointed out, like, he's a scientist with a science lab. He's not going to just instantly inject it into himself. He's just going to take a sample and then test it. So he's going to make sure it's not dangerous. Why are you being so stubborn? You're a scientist. You should know this.
There's a madman. There's a sweaty looking guy asking for my blood, saying it might heal him. I'm going to get nervous. I agree with Peter Parker on that one. I'm not going to trust some man who comes up to me like that.
Yeah, maybe he just said it was too dangerous, but on the inside, he's like, this dude.
I just don't want to give it to you.
Look, he grew up in New York. Like, you're gonna tell me this is the first time he ever heard somebody asking him for his blood on the street?
So I just don't want to give you my blood. That's really what it boils down to.
Like, we're barely friends, dude.
Because we don't have confessionals from Spider-Man. We don't know. He might be thinking something that we're not seeing.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? I liked Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I thought he was a pretty decent Spider-Man. And him and Emma Stone had great chemistry, her as Gwen Stacy. I think they were really good together. In fact, Amazing Spider-Man 2 was supposed to have scenes with Shailene Woodley playing Mary Jane, and they cut it. I don't remember why, but there was supposed to be, Mary Jane was supposed to be introduced in that movie as like a potential second love interest for Peter. And so that's like, they had a lot of ideas they were working with, and I was like, man, it's kind of like when they were like, yeah, we're not doing anymore, and I'm like, that's kind of sad. Like I actually liked these Spider-Man movies. I was curious to see where they were gonna go with the Spider-Man 3 and 4. I was not into the Sinister Six movie though. I was like, I don't care. I don't want to see all the villains. What are they gonna do? Like, I don't understand. What is their movie gonna be about?
They're gonna be sinister.
What's up with all these
gonna be
S?
6 of them.
What's up with all these S alliterations for like anti-heroes or bad guys? Sinister Six, Suicide Squad. There's probably something else.
Listen, comic books are all about alliteration. Just look at the heroes' names. You got Peter Parker, Bruce Banner, Wade Watts.
But what about the S? What
Wade
about
Wilson,
the?
sorry.
I think
What
it
about
probably
the
has
S?
to do with snakes. Like, snakes are seen as seasons.
Yeah, it's that sound.
It's more like there's 6 of them and they're all super villains. So
But what about
Sinister
Suicide
Six.
Squad?
and they're sinister.
Suicide Squad refers to the fact that they're a squad of people who are going on a suicide mission.
Okay, but they're also like anti-heroes, so that you know, that alliteration, there has to be something.
There's the
It's not a coincidence.
The acceleration.
Mhm.
Which is
Listen,
if you want to portray somebody as
thing.
no, if you want to portray somebody as devious or a villain, name them something that begins with S.
Which, you know, is not fair, because honestly, I have a little bit of a lisp sometimes. And, you know, if I want to be a superhero, I can't be, because then I'm trying to be, oh, you Sinister Six. Like, that shit comes out of nowhere. I'm less threatening.
Also, like, that's one supervillain team. You're not thinking about the Rogues, which is all the Flash's supervillains who are on the team. You're not
Who
thinking
cares
about the
about the
Legion of
Rogues?
Doom.
Yeah, but the Rogues.
The Legion of Doom, though. The Legion of Doom is the shit. Lex Luthor, Gorilla Grodd. Well, the Legion of Doom actually
Don't they
changes
hang out
roster
in
all the
like a
time.
swamp though?
That's because that's where evil lives, is in the swamps. I should know. I'm from South Carolina. All we got is swamps.
I don't know. I like. I'd be worried about is like, did you wear antiperspirant at your Dune scene? Because like the swamps are humid and kind of sticky and gross. Like, is there air conditioning? Because I don't want to touch you. I don't want to fight you if you're sticky. That's gonna be a big issue for me. If you're sticky, I don't want to fight you as a superhero.
Also,
You might not
side
wanna
note,
fight
while we're
Glue
on
Man.
the topic of superheroes, did you see that there is a college themed spinoff to The Boys called
Yep.
Gen V?
Yep, I'm excited for
No,
Gen. That's
what?
supposed to be the next thing coming out in the like interim between the next Boys season. We're getting Gen V, which is about a bunch of college kids with superpowers in the same universe as the Boys.
I believe it.
I'm
They've had
curious-
some weirdly successful spinoffs.
Yeah, I'm curious how that's gonna go because Gen V, as far as I know, are not in the comics. Like they're like the people they're doing like that. The story they're telling is like completely original. It's their own thing they're doing. So I'm curious to see
Also-
how that goes.
Also, the Soups, they start with S2.
Soups.
Okay, that's just a word. There's no alliteration
That-
tied to that.
that
That's
is
like
a-
the
No,
same
that
snake
is
I'm
a-
not talking about the
S in them
alliteration.
for
I'm talking
evil.
about the S. I'm talking about the S.
They're sinister because they're soups. Soup. See?
So you're saying, what about superheroes? You know, like
No, what about superheroes? What about super people? Not about soups. Seriously,
You-
again, I've
You
come
gotta
to
get over
fight,
the soups thing,
I've
Alex.
come to fight the
Okay,
soups.
The Soups.
Ooh,
I've
you
come
gotta
to
let
fight
it go.
the chicken
Soups
noodles.
is just yeah.
I will take you down like a tomato.
Where is
biscuit.
Dr. Campbell's? We know he's up to no good. Chef Boyardee
Dr.
is gonna
Campbell's
pay the
actually
day.
sounds like a real like
Dr.
name.
Campbell's.
In,
He's making everybody's heart explode with high sodium.
He summons salt and he puts it inside cans of liquid. It destroys the world.
Pretends it's nutrients. I'm with you. There's too much S's going around. And again, as somebody who
Not really. Y'all just don't know about the rest of.
or
I gave 3 examples there.
I
Okay,
gave
that's
you
enough.
3 examples that were the opposite.
It's the rule of 3.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna look into this. There's probably a study out there somewhere.
Do it.
Next universe. This is kind of in the same vein as the Robin Hood one. This is the King Arthur universe, based on the Guy Ritchie 2017 movie King Arthur: Legend of the Sword.
Is that the guy with the guy from Son of Anarchy? Or I guess-
Yes.
That
Yes.
movie. So I finally watched it because I like him and I like King Arthur's plot. I finally watched it. That is the most boring movie I have ever watched in the longest of time. Fucking, I got like 15 minutes in and I'm like, it already feels like it's been an hour. All right. Look at the time. Nope. You're not even halfway done. That movie is the slowest moving pace movie you will ever watch, and I do not recommend it. That's all I want to say here now. And I can understand why it failed easily. There's no
Yeah,
damn question.
even more than that, it lost the studio $153 million
Of
because
course
it
it
made
did.
no money.
It was so boring. Oh my god, it was awful. It was
Here's the thing.
terrible.
Nobody want like King Arthur and Robin Hood are both those weird franchises where most people don't want any more versions of those movies. Like we already have like the best versions of those stories that have been filmed and made, and ever since they've been trying to go back to them, and they're like, but I'm gonna do mine though. You ain't seen what I can do, and every time people do it, it's like, why? Because it's like for example, we were talking about the Robin Hood movie where they're trying to make it like a modern day action movie, but with Robin Hood, and it's like, no. Same thing with King Arthur too, but they're trying to make the sword like this like super powered sword basically and stuff, and it's like all of these like weird editing choices and stuff. I'm like, you're trying to make King Arthur like he's like a superhero, and he's not. He's just a dude with a sword, the magic sword. That's not even that magical. All it does is that it only can be picked up by one specific person. That's the magic of it.
So it's
Past
like
that, it
hammer.
can't do anything else.
Well, because also like when I was watching the film, they're like, oh, he needs to die because you can reclaim the throne. He's like, I don't want the throne. Well, you need to reclaim the throne. I don't want the throne. He doesn't look like he's fit for the throne. I'm not fit for the throne. During this entire movie, they're like, you need to take control of the throne. I don't want it. He doesn't look like he's fit for it. You're right. I'm not fit for it. Like, he's constantly being like, do not want it. All I want to be is the like bouncer at a whorehouse. But live your life, man. And so like, and then he has all these people. Well, you don't seem like you're fit for the throne. He's like, I keep telling you, I'm not fit for the throne, and I don't know what you want me to say. The only, and it is actually, as I went back and rewatched it, it's actually a crappy version. My favorite version of King Arthur is the BBC Merlin one, which honestly, that's not a very good show. But
yeah, I'm about to say I did not like Merlin.
It wasn't great, but it is still one of my favorite series. And if I have to get King Arthur and Merlin, I want that version again. That style.
Yeah,
version.
the plan was to make an entire franchise that was going to be no fewer than 6 movies. I'm assuming it was going to be not so like, although it doesn't say it was planning for it to be exclusively about each knight coming to the round table, but just that it would explain like where each knight comes from, and King Arthur, I guess, would be the main character in all of them.
Well,
like bringing his knights of the round table together to
you
be
would
the
have
knights of the
you
round
could have
table.
like King Arthur, then could have Merlin, there's Sir Gawain, who's the Green Knight, and Lancelot.
Well, Gawain was Arthur's nephew, so the knights of the round table were already made by then when Gawain
I figured they would probably turn it into something else if they're trying to get movies out of it.
Oh, well, that's true.
And then you have Leon.
Guinevere could maybe get her own movie.
There's Leon, who is Arthur's knight, second knight.
Yeah, Galahad.
Yeah,
could get his own movie.
I guess one would just be all of them together.
Yeah, Lancelot too. And then they all come together to fight a dragon or something. I don't know.
I don't know if Lancelot should get his own movie because he technically was screwing King Arthur's wife.
Listen, we're gonna write that out. We're gonna write our own version of Lancelot. All right, we're already changing things anyway. What you think we're gonna stick to the story? Nah, I'm Guy Ritchie. I do what I want.
They killed like Lancelot off in the Merlin show, but like even still, they had him pretty much cheat a little bit before they got married. They had Guinevere cheat through a spell, yes, but like Lancelot was still going after her. That's all I'm saying. But
Jonathan, any thoughts on the King Arthur universe?
Not really. No, I have no interaction with the King Arthur universe. So, yeah, I'll just say ditto to what you guys said.
Thank you. It's a boring movie. It's not even like worth the like pretend I'm gonna watch type of feel to it. It's like just don't. It's an easy just don't. If there's anything else, choose anything else to watch.
We're down to the last 2. And you could probably guess what number 1 is without even thinking about it. But number 2 is The Dark Tower. Now, for those who don't know, The Dark Tower is the movie is based off of the Stephen King Dark Tower, both book, but also the franchise of or the series of Dark Tower.
Is Robert Pattinson in this?
No, this was Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey was in this movie as Randall Flagg. And there was supposed to be a whole series of movies based on the that franchise, and the first one did so poorly they did not try and make any more. But also, it says the film stories of behind-the-scene conflicts and a bungled, incomprehensible plot were also issues too. A subsequent attempt to reboot the property as an Amazon series was also canceled after the pilot was rejected. So Dark Tower just has no future right now.
You think Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey were beefing?
I don't know. I don't know what the
Those two
actual
would seem like they would
were.
have weird energy together. I don't feel like I would enjoy seeing a movie with both of them in there together.
To be honest, it was like an okay movie at best. I don't even know if like a lot of people were theorizing though that like all the Stephen King movies, because I think it was coming out at the same time that Dark Tower was coming out too. So a lot of people were theorizing maybe we might see some like, if they do more movies, maybe we might see some cameos. Like we might see Pennywise from the It movies played by like Bill Skarsgård, like in a movie, because we do get to see the circus that he's from in the movie Dark Tower, or like the circus that inspired him to dress up as a clown, at least, and some other stuff that implies other movies, like other Stephen King movies that have come out already. So a lot of people were excited to see that, and for Dark Tower to come out, and it was a boring movie. It just didn't really like grab you like it should have,
to it. I mean, it is such, unless it's like constantly like something's threatening on the verge of like literally snatching you into the sewers. It's hard to have like two Stephen King
but
films
it
like
also has that character recognition. It's always nice to have a character associated with a film or a franchise that people can point to. The Dark Tower, it sounds like it's just about a tower. It doesn't sound like there's a character associated with the movie.
That's true. Even with like Doctor Sleep, when that came out, they knew it was part of The Shining, so you knew it was Shining.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, a lot of people were excited when they announced Dark Tower because the gunslinger is like the big main character in the Dark Tower that a lot of people really like. But that's people who've read the book. If you haven't, because they've never made any Dark Tower anything till that movie came out, as far as like in other media, you don't know who that character is. And even then, he doesn't have a name. Like Pennywise is a name. In The Shining, like The Shining itself, just as a movie and a story, has its own like mythos behind it and story behind it. No one knows who the gunslinger is unless you've read these books. So I think they were hoping that was going to help sell it too. And it's like, that being said, though.
Sorry, I also rewatched It, the original one. Tim Curry, man.
He's great.
Fucking terrifying. Him, I actually got scared of. I forgot how terrifying he was. Then I rewatched it. It's like, ooh, okay, damn. I now remember why you were recognized, as Pennywise for so long.
Just the thing about these universes, though, is that what their major issue is. All of them, including number one, when we get to them in a second, they'll put out the first movie before the first movie even comes out. They're already being like, yeah, and don't worry, it's gonna be a whole universe. We're gonna have a whole bunch of movies behind this one. And it's like, your first movie isn't out yet. Don't make those promises. You don't know if you're even gonna get any more, because you don't know if anyone's even gonna like the first one. The reason Marvel succeeded is because, like, I think a piece of it is that they just wanted to make one good Marvel movie. They were like, we're making Iron Man, and that's it. And then they filmed that scene with Sam Jackson as like an extra thing that maybe we might do that, maybe we might not. Depends on how successful Iron Man is. So, but they focused exclusively on, we are going to make Iron Man a good movie. And then Iron Man came out and everybody loved it. So then it was like, okay, cool, we can make this work. All right, universe time. Let's go. We're doing the event.
Go ahead. Sorry,
no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, you go. You go.
Okay, this was my problem with Avatar, because even though the first Avatar came out, I assume that they had no plans to make a sequel or another one, because the movie literally came out 13 years ago. And then they announced, okay, we are making sequels, but we're going to make 5 of them, or however many, 4. And it's going to be this many years in advance. This is who the villain's going to be for however many of those movies. So, okay, we spoiled the fact that the villain is going to like thrive in all of these movies, apparently. So what's the point?
Mm-hmm. That is the part about Marvel that is like upsetting me, is that we are getting, and we were talking about this earlier off mic, about how the director spoiled the surprise for Miss Marvel, as far as like, yeah, Gibson's
very upset about it.
But that the director spoiled the like, reveal on if what happened at the end of Miss Marvel is real or not, like what's really going on. And it's just a thing where I'm like, I miss the days back in early Marvel where it was super, everything was top secret. Like if you wanted to know information about what was coming down the pipeline for Marvel, you had to wait till they announced it and told you what they were doing.
I miss the
And now
days
it's
when
like,
we got spoilers from Tom Holland and that's it.
no, I'm talking about even before that. Like I want to go back to the days where it's like, wait for the announcements to come out. Until then, you're not going to know what we're working on. And now it's like every day we're learning new information of who's been cast, what character they're playing, and where, like how many movies they're going to be in, and what their contract is, and all this other stuff. And it's like it's spoiling the surprise of it even being a universe because you know everything. Heck, I remember watching Black Panther, and you know how in Black Panther there's a scene where T'Challa gets thrown over the waterfall, and it's implied that he's dead. Which I mean, if you're watching a movie, you know he's not because he's the main character. You're just like, he's gonna come back.
Yeah.
But still, you're in the suspense of it. You're doing the thing. When I went to go see Black Panther, what's the trailer playing in front of Black Panther is Avengers Endgame or Infinity War at that time with Black Panther front and center in front of the movie, like in the trailer. So anybody watching Black Panther before the movie even starts knows he's going to be perfectly fine by the end of this movie. And it's like stuff like that where I'm like, y'all need to do better as far as like
I think they ruin it even with their announcements because then because I remember I think it was around the time just right before Thor Ragnarok, they had the list of all the movies that they were going to put out. So it's like, okay, so I know like he's getting a sequel, so I don't even have to worry if he's gonna live or die in the next sequel or not.
Mm-hmm.
I know what's coming. Okay, so this is definitely already coming. So they already have something planned. So that cliffhanger you left me with last year, I already figured it out now. He's fine. I don't know how, but he's gonna be fine. That's how I always hate it too, because then you'd always get this excitement of like, oh my god, the trailer came out and I now know this is gonna be released. Now I have something where somebody can print me out a list and be like, oh, they announced up until till 2030 about Marvel's releases. It's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the day you get the announcement like they just released, they're having this movie be, and then focus on one movie at a time. I think Marvel did really well with its universe and like constructed it and made it fine. But now it's stuck. It's stuck in this universe. It can't escape it. They have to continue on this universe, or people are going to be like, oh, you created something outside of it. But how is that canon with the rest of the universe? What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
They can't not have it attached now.
Also, I think the problem too is they mentioned watched a movie media show, and they talked about something too that I think is becoming a reality, and that the fun of the movies was that because to break into comics, Marvel and DC, it's kind of hard because the barrier to entry is real thick with tons of canon of decades of stories from the 1960s, in DC's case since the 1940s. So it's like hard to just pick up a comic and then just start reading because there might be characters you don't even know exist who are in the story and they're very important, and you got to read this book from way back when to know where that character came from so you can understand why they're important in this story, and so on and so forth. The fun of the movies was that you didn't have to do that. Like the movies were even though they were tied together, they felt very self-contained and very minimal. Like you got a new character each movie and it was very simple to follow. Yeah. Now the movies are starting to become like the comics, where if you didn't watch this TV show and you didn't watch this movie, then you're not going to understand why this character in this next movie is so important to see, or you're not going to understand why that symbol that was in the background from that one movie that one time was important, because those characters are actually tied to this, what's it called, organization that was in this movie that were introduced and whatever. And I'm like, you're starting to convolute it. Just dumb it back down. Yeah. It's starting to get way too complicated and intricate, just like comic books now.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's that whole like they got their idea and they were like, yeah, we want to create, basically what's in the comics, this collab with the other superheroes and stuff, bring it out. But now you're just kind of stuck. There's no more to just individual. There's no more to just we can just make this movie and enjoy it. Now it's like, well, how did it connect? How is everything connecting? It has to, unfortunately, now connect. And it just kind of, I feel like they trapped themselves now.
Last one to talk about, and this one is, of course, it's number one. It has to be because it failed so hard. Is of course the Dark Universe, which started with The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise, and was more or less dead on arrival. Like, I did not have faith in this universe at all when they announced it, because I was like, you're trying too hard. And on top of that, this first movie does not look exciting at all for me to want to watch.
It was so bad. I'm still upset.
I only remember seeing that one scene that we walked in on where I don't even remember what happened, but we just made fun of it for like
because I was talking
weeks
about
and months and years on end.
I think there was a couple.
It was like, that was crazy, dude, or something. He said it really like animated.
Oh, it was the guy who plays Nick Miller on
New Girl.
Yeah, Jake Johnson.
Yeah, Jake Johnson. Who good actor. I like him.
By the way, side note, he's on that show. What's the name of the show? Oh my
Nixon?
gosh. No,
Minx.
Minx.
Was that the show?
Yes, and I've seen a couple episodes, and he's really good in it.
I've been wanting to watch it. It's on my queue. Thank you for letting me know it's good, because I will probably watch it tonight then. Yeah, because like they get blown up or something gets blown up, and he's just like he's like partially a zombie ghost. Something's going on with him. And
yeah,
like
he's like a ghost zombie.
Tom Cruise slams, sits down next to him and he goes like, it's crazy. Like, so disinterested. So like, I mean, you're almost about to die, but like, whatever. The whole movie. First of all, no. One of my biggest problems is it was that when they went to, they were like, oh, you guys are like grave robbers, basically. No, we're art liberators. That's the most racist shit I've ever heard. Art liberator. No, you're all grave robbers. Grave robbers. That's it. That's my go on. What do you want?
Okay. I like the biggest problem is that, just like we were talking about, because it's like, at least the other ones, it was strictly just like a movie news thing. Like, if you weren't reading movie news, you didn't know that Dark Tower was supposed to have more movies, or that there was gonna be a Robin Hood universe or anything like that. Like you didn't know that they were making more. Dark Universe, they thought for sure they had it in the bag. Like they took a picture of, well, it was a Photoshop picture, but they had a picture with star actors who were going to be in other movies. Like Javier Bardem was supposed to be, I think, Frankenstein, and Johnny Depp was going to be the Invisible Man and stuff.
They wanted The Rock as Dwayne Johnson as the Wolfman.
Yeah, like they had plans. They had Bride of Frankenstein was already like greenlit and ready to go. They had made a separate. I'll never forget when I watched The Mummy and the Universal logo became the Dark Universe logo. I'm like, y'all have a logo and everything. Like, they thought for sure it was a shoo-in. It's like, we're like, the universe is done. Like we're like, this going hit right here, and the world collectively just kicked them in the balls. It was just like, nah, son, go somewhere with that. We don't want these movies.
What their mistake was starting with The Mummy, because
that too,
yes, people associate The Mummy with the 90s version of The Mummy. So I feel like people thought this was a reboot of it, and reboots generally don't get as much traction as something where you're starting fresh and it becomes a huge hit. Like for the most part, we've seen with reboots over the years, people are like, oh, cool, and they just go on to the next thing. It's not like a craze, and they didn't build that hype. So,
which me and Alex pitched, like, I think when the Dark Universe came out, me and you, we worked together to pitch how.
Oh yeah, because we had so many hours because The Mummy wasn't selling. The people leave the theater. We got like half an hour between shows.
Didn't we say our first movie would have been Creature of the Black Lagoon?
I think we said Frankenstein.
Oh yeah.
We said
Which even
Frankenstein because
then-
it was a well-known one, but there's no like Frankenstein movie that people are like, this is Frankenstein, we're obsessed with it, anything like that. So it was a well-known.
The only one is the 1930s original one with Boris.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I think
that,
we went into Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde because then Dr. Jekyll was trying to figure out what happened to his friend, Dr. Frankenstein's creation. What's going on? See, I can even build it
Right.
now. And then working from
and
there.
Then it was Creature of the Black Lagoon. 'cause
Universal,
then,
give
like,
Alex the money right now.
Jekyll.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like it like you said, Jonathan, like I remember when they were like, we're doing the Mummy first. I'm like, why? The Mummy is the most recent out of, well, actually, that's not true. Because Dracula Untold, and I think I Frankenstein had come out. And hey, Chad, and both those series had failed because Dracula Untold was supposed to have like a bunch of sequels and stuff. Same thing, and I Frankenstein was made by a different company, but even still, like there had been more recent like monster movies, so I think that's why they didn't do Frankenstein or Dracula, because they didn't want anyone thinking there was crossover with those.
I
movies.
think there was Hotel Transylvania had a Frankenstein that people really liked, that Dracula.
But it's like, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I would have picked one of the, because their whole thing was, yeah, we're doing like all these nights. Because I remember that trailer there, and they were showing all the 1930s monster Universal movies, and they were like, yeah, man, like these movies are legendary, and we're trying to like recreate that magic. And I'm like, and the first one you picked was The Mummy, and even then, like I think the other part is problem too was all these supposed to be action movies. Make them horror movies. Why would you make them action movies?
Also, why would you get Tom Cruise? Why?
Well, Tom Cruise is.
I don't care.
Well, he dies. So.
Okay, spoiler alert. I was gonna watch the movie tomorrow. No, I wasn't. But hey, Tom Cruise, he just did his thing with Top Gun. So.
Yeah, Top Gun's selling. I mean, Tom Cruise is still a movie star. Like, make no mistake, the man still makes.
I don't care. He didn't need to be in
money.
The Mummy.
So
The Mummy was so fucking bad. It was so awful. And then Tom Cruise with a pumpy arm run ruined it even more.
I think for me, it's more sad for Sofia Boutella, because Sofia Boutella is really good, and yet she always gets gets put in these like movies that don't really get to utilize her as much as she should be utilized. It's kind of sad because I'm like, I like Sofia Boutella. But
there's a scene where she checked his teeth like he was a fucking horse or something.
Now I will say that my favorite part of that movie is when she bitch smacked the hell out of Tom Cruise.
I did enjoy that.
And Tom Cruise is like stepping up to her, and she's like, Tom Cruise is already a short guy, and she's even shorter than he is, and she just smacked the taste out his mouth. I was
somebody
just like,
should have just gotten a big glass and put it over them too, and it would have been fine. I think that's how they could have resolved everything. A nice big glass, pop it on the tongue too, and it's fine.
It was that made me laugh, and it made everyone laugh in the theater. But that was like the scene where I was like, all right, that's funny.
Well, another thing is also with this movie, it had that, you're right, that successful reboot that became such a had a cult following of its own. The Mummy in the 1999 version had stood on its own feet. It wasn't even considered almost part of the classic horror films. People forgot it originated from the classic horror films back from the 1920s. And to just try to reboot that one as well, that not only had its successful universe there, then had its own successful movie where people, 30 years later are still, not 30, it came out 23 years later, are still talking about it. And like, you're going to just try to reboot it and then have it in this weird way too. It wasn't in a very good and thought out way, I felt like, either. Because what it was originally, their plot was that the mummy was trying to look for a spouse or a mate to make itself more powerful.
She's trying to summon like the spirit of Ra into a person because she was in love with Ra, the god of God.
Which was stupid because the original when they showed the original mummy story, she killed everybody to gain control of the throne. And it was like, okay, suddenly
Yeah,
now
well,
she
she made a
wants
deal with Ra that if she gave him a vessel to exist so that he could like end the world, essentially, he would give her the power to be queen.
yeah, just give him any vessel. You don't need to check
Yeah.
people's teeth for that.
I guess that'd be a
I'm
specific
still
vessel.
really
You know what I
strung up on
mean?
that.
I'm just saying.
I don't know. It's the thought of my finger, people's fingers in other people's mouths, especially now after COVID and everything. Like, don't stick your finger in people's mouths. I don't care if you're an
It was
ancient
dead on
mummy.
arrival. If they were gonna do it right, I think they should have made it a horror movie universe, kind of like The Conjuring. You know what I mean? Like I think that could have worked, or as like that type of thing, but like a lot more sentimental because I like the idea of like the movie monsters being like the victims, but
Also,
we don't see it. But the people in the movie don't see them that way because they see them as just monsters. Like I think that
also
would be
they
cool.
were doing the Bride of Frankenstein before doing the Frankenstein film. That was the second one that was supposed to come
Yeah.
out. So
Make it
clearly,
make
Yeah.
sense.
yeah, they didn't have a clear linear thought on what to do.
Well, they were going to do a bunch of them because there's also rumors they were going to do Phantom of the Opera, and I'm like, how the hell does that tie
Oh,
in?
yeah,
Like,
I heard they were supposed to have Gerard Butler do that one or something.
No, Gerard Butler did the original Phantom of the Opera
I
reboot.
I just looked at a list of who they wanted to have. I think I got rid of it. There's a list I was just looking at where they had all these people of like who was gonna do what. That's how I knew about the Wolfman. I don't know. That one was a really big failed one. They tried so hard, and
That's
they
just-
were
yeah,
so ready.
They didn't clearly have like a clear vision on how to, mostly because they were trying to make it like a superhero thing, because they also talked to them trying to get them like have set up their characters that can have them all be in one movie together. But I'm like, why? What would they fight? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're setting them up the way I think you are, you're trying to set them up like the Avengers, because remember, Dr. Jekyll's supposed to be like the like head of this like secret organization that's been dealing with monsters for decades and stuff, and he's like essentially the Nick Fury of this world, even though he is very clearly unstable because he's got another personality in his body that if he doesn't take this medicine every now and again
himself.
would unleash and kill everybody. So I'm like, why would you let this man run this organization? This is what happens when you let Kanye run for president. You get stuff like this.
How we get
I'm just saying.
to Kanye for president?
Because if he did win, this is what it would
Unstable
be. He
leaders?
would be the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and we'd have a jar filled with monster parts or something and a table. It'd be all weird.
I weirdly agree with
Not
you
far
somehow.
out from the world we're living in now, but
No, I mean,
yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I feel bad for the people who put a lot of work into the Dark Universe, but at the same time, I'm like, y'all should have thought it through better, and also shouldn't have maybe banked so hard on the Mummy before the Mummy came out, and you could have saved a little bit of face.
Rick O'Connell didn't deserve that.
All in all, just a word of advice to
Knock it off.
studios, that and maybe keep the cards close to the vest. Don't throw all your eggs in one basket, for one. And two, just surprise the fans. Like, you ain't got to announce your plans for the next 8 years. You can maybe say, hey, we have this filmed. We're going to release this. You're going to watch it. You're going to hear the response. And then in response to that positive, hopefully, response, you're going to release another movie, or you're going to release a movie that ties into that same universe. So yeah, I understand the incentive of, wanting to get people hyped for this series of things that's about to come, but I don't think that's necessarily the smartest way to go about things, unless you have already an established base.
That's the thing about Marvel and DC. When they were trying to start universes, it's just like they're like, well, DC and Marvel announced theirs. I'm like, yeah, because they're a superhero. They have an established, like, decade-long fan base based
They
off of
also
multiple different
have-
books and franchises. They can announce that stuff, and people will get excited. you are making something new. It's not the same.
They also have like they could follow a clear plot because they have the material already technically written out for them. When it came to the Dark
True.
Universe, they had something semi like that, but then they wanted to go different. They wanted to go more action and thriller, and it's like, well, you have a horror classic style set out. Unless you're planning to follow that template, which clearly you did not, you can't really get upset when you're like, oh yeah, we had it all planned out. You didn't, though. You really didn't.
Also, follow the pulse of the culture and listen to the culture, because right now it probably wouldn't be the best idea to release a franchise or universe about, like, I don't know, a mass murderer, or something along those lines.
You're not wrong.
True, because like I don't know how long that Invisible Man movie, the one with Elizabeth Moss,
which I watched that a couple months ago, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
It was good, but it's just, I don't know how long that movie was in the works, but I don't think that was going to be tied to the Dark Universe. At least it doesn't feel like it was. So, but that's supposed to be based off of the original book. So I don't know where would that have fit in, because I feel like that wasn't just greenlit last minute. I don't know, like, it's because they were going to do an Invisible Man movie too. So it's just it's I don't know. My thing, don't like you said, don't bank on your one movie that is going to lead you to an entire universe of movies unless you're for sure like, oh yeah, we're making money and the movies are working. Hell, Marvel waited until like basically just before the Avengers came out to announce like, yeah, this is an official universe, even though everyone already knew, to say like, yeah, no, Avengers coming out and there's going to be more movies. Like, that's 4 movies in, they waited to say that. And y'all are waiting before the first movie comes out to say that there's going to be like 6 films.
They had a new logo designed and everything.
Right. Like, slow your roll. All right. Take a second, think it through, make sure that there's a plan and there's an audience. Wait for the first movie to come out. Then maybe do a second movie. If the second movie and the first movie do great, then you announce your universe. Like, it's just
it's patience. Don't automatically go for the universe. Clearly, there's a lot more failures and successes. And like, see what the S is in the list and how it's. I can't ever be a superhero.
Well,
also, like on the last note, also, I feel like the DCEU shouldn't be up on this list because it's still going currently. Like, they're still making movies that are technically part of that universe.
They haven't failed. They just have hits and misses.
Yeah,
they've just been like, rocky, but it's not a failed universe.
But think about talking about current culture or what's going on right now in what is going on in one of the main actors' lives of this universe. It is currently DC's universe.
Well, a couple of them.
That's true.
That's just the one, but and Aquaman too. But and the like, you still got. Well, that's what I mean. I mean the Flash and Aquaman too. But those are the only 2. We still got Suicide Squad. That franchise is still going strong. Harley Quinn's doing all right.
No, they're fine. They're fine. I'm talking about the DC Legends, view little universe. They might have to like abandon that and be like, hey, look, there's Suicide Squad and
what I'm saying is Suicide Squad with Peacemaker and Harley Quinn, that's still a part of that universe. Same thing with Wonder Woman, and the same thing with Shazam and Black Adam. Those movies also take place in city, so they got a few. They're still
as long
keeping
as they
it
don't
strong.
Focus on the Center Legends League, whatever.
Yeah, the Justice League.
Fine. Yeah, as long as they don't focus on the main councilman members, it's fine. They'll be fine.
Well, yeah, the Trinity. Well, Batman and Superman are just out right now, except for Robert Pattinson playing Batman, but that's in a different universe anyway, so it don't matter. And Superman's just out. So, and Flash and Aquaman, not because of Jason Momoa, because of the Amber Heard stuff. Yeah, it's not doing so hot. And technically, even Gal Gadot's got a little bit of controversy on her too with the Zionist stuff. So
Henry Cavill, though, he is still very good to look at. So there's. I
don't think he's.
He hasn't gotten into any mess either.
He has.
They keep teasing that he might come back as Superman, but I don't think he will. I think he's like happy just doing Witcher, and that's it.
Because he gets to
And
be
whatever
like
extra stuff. he's
more
doing.
nerdy, free and nerdy.
Yeah, and he has more control. That's for sure.
Mhm.
So
Well, on the positive note of Superman and Henry Cavill, what's everybody's social medias?
that has nothing to do. What has nothing to do with the other?
Well, you can see
No,
me
I'm
staring
trying
at
to
Henry
end on the
Cavill.
positive note.
Henry Cavill is always a positive note. I got something in my eye.
All right, go ahead, Alex.
I have something in my eye. Go.
All right, very well. Jonathan, go.
Oh, I was going to defer to you, Jerome. Anyway, I'll go. You can find me at Jonathan Keys on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you please. Thought I was going to forget that line, but I didn't because Jerome, where can people find you?
You can find me at Not Jerome Rhett and at RoboZoo Media and at Jerome_the_show for all the other creative stuff I am working on at any given time.
And you can
And
find
Alex,
me...
are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
You can find me at Alex and Nobody on Instagram and on TikTok. And TikTok is also where you can find our podcast, The First One to Die, where I post little clips and audio clips of our podcast and other clips that we have gotten from YouTube. And what else can you find on YouTube, Jerome?
Yeah, you can find all types of extra content on our YouTube page at The First Ones to Die. You can find mini reviews, book reviews, gaming content, vlogs, video versions of all the podcasts, and even some extra videos of other topics that we haven't made a podcast for. And eventually, you'll also find some D&D content we are working on as well. So to stay tuned for that when that comes up. So, that's where you can find all that stuff. And also, if you just want to follow the podcast in general, you can follow us at all our social medias on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all that stuff at The First Ones to Die, as well as on all streaming platforms to hear the audio version of the podcast, which is Spotify, places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever.
We would love your comments. Give us 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening to. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a like and a subscribe. And until next time.
Well, next
we'll
time we're
also...
talking about Nope. So be on the lookout.
Wait, have we confirmed that?
Well, yeah. I'm confirming it. I mean, we're already gonna watch the movie.
You're watching it out coming day. English. That's all I have to say.
Another film.
We'll see it some
that's
other time.
That's gonna be me after I watch Nope. I'm gonna be speechless.
All right, y'all. See ya.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.